Hi guys, my name is Stephanie and you're welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. Please consider subscribing to join this family. So in this video, I'll be sharing with you guys how to cut and sew this trendy bubu gown with this front design and a v neckline. And I have this 2.5 yard of fabric I'll be making use of in this project, and also half yard of dotches that I'll be using for the design in front and other materials here. So keep watching the video till the end. So guys, the first thing I'm going to do is to unfold the fabric, and then I'll be folding it into 4. I will turn it to the wrong side and then fold it into 4 because I'm cutting both the back and the front piece together. And I'll go ahead and draw a straight line at the upper side, which will actually serve as my starting point. And then I'll go ahead and divide her shoulder measurement. Her shoulder is 17 inches divided by 2 is 8.5. I'll go ahead and mark the 8.5 right there. And then I'll actually be extending it at this other side. I'll be adding 18.5 inches starting from the 8.5 inches from the shoulder line. I'll extend it by 18.5 inches. So all in all, I have about 27 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark the 27 inches right there. So that's just the excess that is this side. Both folding allowance is also included in the 27 inches. So guys, the next measurement I'll be taking is our neck width. The neck width I'm making use of is 3.5 inches. I'll go ahead and place the 3.5 inches right there and then mark it. And then for the back neck depth, I'm making use of 1 inch. So I'll mark the 1 inch and then connect it to the neck width of 3.5 inches. So for the shoulder slope, from this 8.5 inches that I marked for shoulder, I'll go down from there by 1 inch, and then I'll be using my ruler from the neck width, from where the neck width actually stop. I'll start slanting from there, and then I'll take it all the way down to the 27 inches that I marked from the other side earlier. So guys, the next measurement I'm going to be taking is from her shoulder to her hip point, and from her shoulder to her waistline is 18 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it, but I'm not making use of her waist measurement in this tutorial. So from her waist to her hip point is 9 inches, making it to be 27 inches. From her shoulder to her hip point is 27 inches. So I'll be adding extra inches at the downside to where the core effect is actually going to start. So I'm adding extra 8 inches at the downside. After adding the 8 inches at the downside, I'll have about 35 inches. I'll go ahead and mark it over there, and then I'll be connecting it with a straight line to the other side. So guys, the next measurement I'll be taking is the full length of the gown. It's actually going to be a short gown. I'll start it from the shoulder line. I'll start measuring it from the shoulder line to the full length. It's 43 inches. I have 43 inches right there. So I have extra 1 inch at the downside for folding. So I'm not going to cut anything out. I'll just use the remaining inches at the downside to just fold it in. And the next thing I'm going to do is that from this point where the core effect is going to start, I'm going to be dividing her hip measurement. Her hip is 43 inches divided by 4 is 10.5. So I'm going to be adding extra 3.5 inches, making it to be 14 inches. So I'm using 14 inches at that point. I'll go ahead and mark the 14 inches right there. And after marking the 14 inches, I'm going to be connecting a straight line from there all the way to the full length of the gown. I'll connect a straight line all the way to the downside. So from this point where the shoulder slope actually stops, I'm going to be marking 14 inches for sleeve opening. From that point, I'll mark 14 inches down, and then I'll mark it with my chalk because I'm using an elastic for the sleeve. So I'll mark the 14 inches and then I'll later on use an elastic for the sleeve. So I'll go ahead and connect the straight line from that point all the way to the 14 inches. And the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to drag this up like this, and I'll be creating the core effect at the downside, starting from the downside. So I'll go ahead and start connecting it from that 35 inches that I marked at the downside. I'll actually curve it just the same way you see in this video. I'll curve it all the way to the 14 inches that I marked for the sleeve opening. So you see that I'm actually curving it outward. I'm not taking it straight. It's actually not straight. I'm just curving it to meet the 14 inches for the sleeve opening, where the 14 inches is actually stopping. I'll just take it like that all the way to the 35 inches at the downside. So I just use a white chalk to make it be more bold, since the yellow chalk was not coming out enough. So after marking it, I'll go ahead and cut it with my scissors now. And I also go ahead and cut the shoulder line following the shoulder slope just the same way you see in this video. So guys, after doing that, I'll go ahead and cut the back neck depth. I'll cut it together with the front because I will not be using it for the front. I'll actually cut a different neckline. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and remove all the pins that I pinned the material with before cutting and moving it up and down. And then I'll remove the front separately to cut the neckline. So I'll go ahead and arrange this front piece. I folded it into two. I'll arrange it, and then I'll be marking from that shoulder line to 12 inches. That's actually how deep I want it to be. This is actually based on your own preference and how deep you want it. So from that 12 inches, I'm moving in by 2 inches. So from there, I'll mark 2 inches from there all the way to the full length of the gown, to the downside of the gown. And this chalk I'm actually using to mark is not really coming out enough. And the fact that the material is even too busy is not really bright enough for you guys to see, but I'm just marking 2 inches all the way from the upper side to the downside, from that 12 inches to the downside. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler and connect it from that neck width. From that neck with 3.5 inches, I'll connect it all the way to the 12 inches, just the same way you see in this video. And what I'll do next is I'll go ahead and cut from the neck depth. I'll cut it all the way to the 12 inches, and then I'll curve it all the way like that to the 2 inches, and then cut it all the way to the full length, to the downside of the gown. So guys, I'm actually done doing that. As you can see, I'm actually done cutting it from the upper side all the way to the downside, and this is actually how it looks like. I've also gone ahead to cut these two pieces. I've cut and folded this Duchess material in two. It's actually long enough to go down to the full length of the gown. It's 2.5 inches in width on fold, and when I open it up, it's going to be about 5 inches. So it's actually long enough to go down to the full length of the gown. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be opening it up just the same way you see in this video. And I'll go ahead and place the right sides of the pieces facing each other just the same way you see in this video. And then I'm going to be marking from the upper side to the 12 inches of neck depth that I marked on the fabric. I'll go ahead and mark it, and then mark it with my chalk. So I've actually marked the 12 inches so that by the time I sew it to actually match with the 12 inches that I mark on the fabric. And then the piece is actually going to have a slit in front. The gown is actually going to have a slit in front. So I'm going to be marking from the upper side to 37 inches. That's actually where I want the slit to stop. I'll mark at 37 inches. This is actually based on your own preference. If you want it to be too high or too low, you will mark it where you actually want. And I'll go ahead and sew from the middle, from those marked points, from where the fold is. So guys, I'm actually done doing that. I'm actually done sewing from those marked point that I showed earlier, and this is what I have after sewing. I actually sew it all the way from the middle to where the slit is going to stop, and I've also flipped it over to iron it to be flat. And I also, as you notice, it's not actually up to 2.5 inches. I trim it after sewing it, so it's not up to 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be placing this on the right side of the fabric. I'll place it on the right side of the piece, front piece, one of the piece, just the same way you see, like that, and then I'll take it and sew it all the way to the downside by 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing to this other side as well. So guys, when I'm actually sewing it, I'm not going to complete it at the full length of the gown. I'll stop at some point, because after sewing the gown, I will be making a fold. I'll be folding the downside and also turning the placket as well. So I'm done sewing it all the way to the downside for both sides, and I also stop at some point in order to turn the placket and also fold the downside of the gown. So for this back piece, I've gone ahead to cut a piece of fabric that will be turning the neckline with. So I'll place the right sides facing each other, and then I'll take it and sew it and turn it over. So guys, this is what I have after sewing it and turning it. I've also gone ahead to iron it. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to be placing the right sides of these pieces facing each other. The front piece, I'll place it with the right side facing each other, just the same way you see, like this, and then I'll be turning it with the neckline of the back. I'll flip it like that and then sew the shoulder. I'll do the same thing to the other side. So guys, I'm actually done sewing the shoulder line, both from the left hand side and the right hand side. And for the inside, because of the sides of these dotches were rough, I had to use a piece of fabric to actually turn it to give it a neat finishing. And I also turn it to stop where I actually stopped sewing. So the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to be placing the right sides of both the back and the front pieces facing each other, and then I'll go ahead and sew about 1 inch all the way to the downside. I'll do the same thing to this other side as well. I'll arrange it and then sew it. So guys, I'm actually done doing that. I'm done sewing the sides all the way to the downside, and also did the same thing to this other side as well. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to be folding the gown. I'll fold it from the downside all the way around, and I'm also done sewing it around, and I'll go ahead and sew this placket. So I've actually gone ahead to cut it to just be 1/2 inch longer than the gown itself. I'll go ahead and fold it like that and then sew 1/2 inch. I will do the same thing to the other side as well. So when I'm actually done doing that, I will go ahead and complete sewing it and also turn it with the other piece as well. So I'm done doing that. I've gone ahead to turn the placket, and also went ahead to complete sewing it and also turn it with the piece that was turning the rough edges as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to be folding the sleeve into 2 and create a space for elastic band. I've also gone ahead to do that. I've gone ahead to sew for the 2 sleeves, and I'll have an elastic band of about 10 inches right here. I'll go ahead and measure it. I have 10 inches of band. I will use a safety pin and then hold it and then fix it inside the sleeve. So guys, I'm actually done doing that. I'm done fixing the elastic inside the sleeve, and I also went ahead to sew the elastic so that it doesn't escape inside the sleeve, and also close the space that I use in fixing the elastic inside. So this is actually what I have after I was done doing everything. This is the end result of the gown. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're still here, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, and also share it to anyone you know it will be of help to. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.